operation. Lord, help us make good decisions and just be with us as we go through this day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Roll call, please.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Cherokee Watt. Bill Anglin.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Julia Coates. Bradley Cobb.
Aye.
Joe Crittenden. Jody Fishenhawk.
Here.
Meredith Fraley. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
Tina Glory Jordan.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
Chris Soap.
Here.
David Thornton.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
I make a motion we reinstate the community assistance the way Meredith put it in the budget.
Second. What was the motion? Okay, the motion is made to reinstate community assistance. The motion is seconded. But do we need to figure out where the money's coming from?
We can do that at a later date. Let's have it.
Okay.
I agree, as he
Okay.
clarifies.
The motion's been made and seconded that the community assistance be reinstated
Well,
or put back into the budget.
yeah, put back into the budget, community assistance, and what was the other thing they took out of the budget, Meredith?
Attorney fees.
Attorney fees.
Contractual fees.
In other words, put her budget back the way it was.
I accept it.
Okay. Okay. The motion's been made that the tribal council budget be restored to as it was submitted.
All for the budget.
The question's been called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Bill John Baker.
Yes.
Harley Buzzard.
No.
Julia Coates.
No.
Bradley Cobb.
No.
Joe Crittenden.
Yes.
Jody Fishenhawk.
Yes.
Meredith Fraley.
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright.
No.
Don Garvin.
No.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Yes.
Tina Glory Jordan.
Yes.
Curtis Snell.
Yes.
Chris Soap.
No.
David Thornton.
Yes.
Jack Baker.
No.
Cherokee Watt. Bill Anglin.
No.
We have 8 yes and 8 no.
Okay. So the motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make another motion, please.
Yes.
I'd like to propose that we reduce donations and contributions out of the tribally funded sheet we got yesterday, reduce that by $50,000, move $25,000 to county livestock auctions and $25,000 into Cherokee sports teams.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded.
Just a minute, let me clarify which line are we looking at?
It was the 200,000 general donations that it be.
I know it's a sheet of counties, but let me find it here a second.
But it was, the general contributions were increased by 200,000.
Decrease.
I mean, the addition of Kelly's amendments to the budget yesterday.
Yeah, I'm trying to find
Had
it.
the general contributions at 200,000,
Okay, but
and the motion was made to reduce that by 50,000 and increase the sports team by 25 and
County livestock by
county
25.
livestock by 25.
okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Discussion. Councilor Jordan.
Would you accept a friendly amendment? And that friendly amendment would be that on the county livestock auctions, that we guarantee each student that makes the livestock auction is guaranteed $100.
I would, question to the chair.
Yes.
Proposed committee, is there a committee that's going to administer any of this? Is there anything, we're just going to do this in council? How?
There's a subcommittee.
Mr. Henry.
And I think this is something that we will need to get clarification from Ms. Knight. And unfortunately, she's not here. Okay. But in my discussions yesterday with her, I asked if the donations if the community youth assistance, community adult assistance, Cherokee sports team, and Cherokee livestock auctions would be part of the subcommittee process for the donations and contributions, and she stated to me that it would not be. Okay, so but I don't want to speak for her. But is that the understanding?
I believe on the livestock, the idea was that would be administered by community services, similar to the current youth assistance grants, and that would be a matter of setting up what the policies are for that pot of money. What would now be, if this motion passes, the $150,000 donations and contributions. The idea is that a subcommittee would be formed, as we discussed yesterday, which would be the council and the chief or a representative of the chief's office.
But the remaining items, the youth, adult, sports, and livestock, would not be.
I believe the idea was that those would be administered by a program, more than likely community services, similar to the current programs.
Councilor Jordan, you've asked that it be a friendly amendment.
And again, if we just identify now that we want each student that was successful in making the sale to have $100, then we've sent that information to them on how to handle that.
That would be the will of the council, that this is how we would like to see the program administered. And that information would be taken into account as they set up their internal procedures for administering that money.
And Brad, again, I would ask you to accept that as a friendly amendment.
I'm going to not accept that right now, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not opposed to that. I'm a little wary of stepping on a group's toes, and I want to let them do their job. I don't have a problem going back after we kind of get through the budget, get into committee, kind of look at some things, and direct them to do that. But we're at the head end of a budget here. I'm not opposed to that, but I get a little wary of for lack of a better term, earmarking exactly how it goes. So right now, I'm not going to accept that.
I would ask then that that be in the form of its own motion.
Second.
Okay.
Don't we already
We
have
already have a motion.
Motion and second on the floor.
A motion and second on the floor.
She has made a motion to amend
Yes.
that motion.
And
is what
he
she's
didn't want
actually
to
made.
accept it as friendly amendment, so I'm making a motion for that
So hers is
amendment.
in order.
Yes.
To clarify, yes, you can amend the amendment one time. You can't do an amendment to amendment to amendment. There is one amendment to an amendment, and that must be dealt with prior to the vote on the primary or the main motion. But if the chair would allow me to make a comment, may I?
Yes.
Okay. We are appropriating dollars for a purpose here. These items here are initially new initiatives, new programs. It may, and I may get some disagreement from the administration here, but I believe that there's going to need to be enabling legislation that's going to set out the parameters for you to, on how to expend these funds. So I think it would be my suggestion to the council is just determine how much money is going to go to each one of these programs, and then come back with enabling legislation on how how we're going to direct the administration to administer that program. That's a comment.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Yes, Councilor Baker.
Yeah, and I think, Tina's on point that, we've been, the last several years, the kids at the livestock show, we've been able to give them $100. I think it's reasonable, and I really hope that administration doesn't tack on a community service element to it, because folks, you don't know how hard these kids work. I mean, they're out at 5 o'clock every morning feeding this livestock. They're brushing, cleaning. They are building character. They are building responsibility. They are building all of these things from this program, and many of our bankers and leaders and everything in our communities grew up in 4-H and FFA doing these responsible type things that it builds leadership. And we're all about education, we're all about leadership, and this is a wonderful program that works well. And although I'm not sitting here saying let's give them $500 a piece like the Choctaws do, although I would love to do that, but let's at least give them a $100 premium add-on to their for their efforts, because now there's a bunch of kids that are doing this that don't make the sale. But let's at least, as a nation, sit there and say we respect your work, your hard work, and your success, and let's give them $100 premium added on to their sale, because folks, these adult leaders are telling them, take your money, put it in the bank first, to help you go to college, to help you, buy a herd, to help you do this, to help you do that. They're not out drinking and running the streets, and these kids are working hard for everything that this nation believes in. So please vote yes on this amendment.
Councilor Hoskin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with Todd that we need enabling legislation, but I think until such time as we do that, we really need to do something. We need to give this program guidance, and I agree wholeheartedly with Tina, and I want to echo what Bill John Baker said. The kids who do this have already done a lot of community service, because it's a service to their community to get involved in this kind of activity. But I am troubled, Mr. Chairman, that we are witnessing in about 5 minutes the wholesale destruction of a program that's served us well, with no debate to speak of. And the only concerns that's been expressed, and I have great respect for Councilman Cobb, the only concern that's been expressed is stepping on the toes of the administration. I am not concerned with stepping on the toes of the administration when they are asking us to destroy programs that have worked, for which there has been no problem, all in the name, in my view, of a power grab that's constitutionally suspect, at least the way it's been demonstrated.
So let's keep this to the issue of the $100.
Well, I am, Mr. Speaker, because the issue, Mr. Chairman, is that we have to rush. We have to rush to make sure we put some criteria on this mass transfer of funds from a program that worked. And so we ought to be debating whether it's wise to do that rush. But if we're going to rush to do it, then I agree that we have to follow Councilman Tina Jordan's lead to put some criteria on it. I think it's germane to the subject. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Councilor Fulbright.
Thank you. This past year was the first time the Floyd County students got the money, and it was approximately $100 a piece, and we put $5,000 into it. And many of the FFA teachers came to me and said they had lost their local sponsorship because of the poor economy, and that $100 was the only thing that some of those kids got, because they didn't get into the top tier. And I think we need to set aside some money directly to guarantee them that they are somehow going to get this $100, and I don't think it should be connected to community service, because I was a volunteer 4-H leader for 30 years. Now you'll figure out my age, but anyway, I was really proud of it, and those kids worked really, really hard, and I'm a big supporter of 4-H and FFA and VOAG, and that just does so much for the kids, gives them self-confidence, and they're the type of kids that stay out of trouble, and they are working really hard. They put in their community service when they got their animals for sale. And I would like to see some way, to be the smartest person in the world as exactly how to do it, but I would like to guarantee these kids that they get at least $100. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Cobb?
I want to be clear on kind of where I'm coming from here. I know the chief watches these, and we've had this discussion before, and some of them have been kind of spirited, but our job as a legislative branch is to make law and control the purse strings. In the 2 years that I've been on the council, when is it that we stop directing every single dollar and start trusting some of these group leaders to do the right thing? Look, if they don't do the right thing, let's step in and say, look, this is not what we intended. My concern is that everything goes back to the administration. We keep talking about the administration is going to do this, the administration is going to do that. With all due respect to the chief, I'm kind of not even focused on the administration. What I'm looking at here is a group leader. And you can argue that, well, the group leaders are under the administration. That's fine. Where do we actually stop and trust the people we have in positions of leadership in the groups are doing what they're supposed to do? Look, if they're not, then our job is to step in and say, look, this is not what we intended and this is what's going to happen. But until that happens, I'm not one that just feels like I have to direct every single little thing. We've got to start trusting these people to do the right thing. That's their job. So we keep talking about the administration. If we're concerned about the things being done correctly, let's talk about the group leaders. That's where I'm coming from. I have absolutely no problem fundamentally with the $100 for those kids. Have absolutely no problem with it. I do have a problem with stepping on group leaders' toes every single dollar that goes to the budget. And that's where I'm coming from. So it may be just an issue of semantics. That's kind of where I'm coming from. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Sutton?
Yeah, I was just curious as to the timing of the next sale.
November, right?
November 2010?
Right.
Actually, there's
No,
some...
February. It's February.
No, there's some in October.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
So-
Starting in October, we
So-
have sales.
So we're going into Tulsa, and that was my understanding yesterday.
Point of order,
We were-
8 of your counties are in September. Our premium options are in September.
Well, the new fiscal year would be October.
Right, so that was just my question as far as, the timing and need to rush and things like that. As far as, the October sale, I'm sure that the $50,000 that's proposed would cover that unless there's more than 500 students. But that's ultimately my question, is how many students do we expect to serve with this program?
Do you have
I don't have an answer on how many students, but I did want to just remind this body that the initial number of 25,000 was derived by looking at what had been provided to these livestock auctions in the past. And then Councilor Cobb's motion to add money to that brings that total up. But
So-
we don't have a head count.
If you don't
of how
have a
many
number,
students.
that's why I'm concerned, because I don't
Yeah.
know that Mays County got $5,000 over the last 2 or 3 years. And so, either the numbers weren't there, or they weren't as fortunate, or we weren't as, appreciative of the work that was being done there. So I don't know what happens there, but I was just curious, Mr. Chair, about the number of students we expected to serve. Since we don't know that number, I don't know that we can just say $100 per student.
Okay. Councilor Creighton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to pick up on something Councilman Cobb mentioned a while ago about the purse strings and our role in the money that controls the purse string. I've been on the council for 6 years, and it seems to me that every year at budget time we have this little set to, if you will, and it seems like we continually try to rush to give away the purse. I think it's an atrocity, actually, to what we've done in 6 years. we've given the purse strings away. We've given it away. And here we are this morning, fixing to give a little last remnant of it away that's worked wonderfully for several years. It's devastating to me. Just a comment.
Councilor Horton.
Oh, my turn. I don't know how the system actually works. I do know that every year there's a show countywide in our county. Whether they make the show or not, or make the sale or not, I feel like some of these people have said, each one of those individual Cherokees need help, and if we can give each one of those individual Cherokees that even show an animal in the county show, these people are the ones that all of them need something. Now, that's the way I look at it, and that's what Janelle and I did the last time. We didn't set prize money up here. If you make the sale, well, you get this money. Well, those people that make the sale are going to get some funding out of it some way or another. But the people that don't make the sale, they're not going to get anything. And they've worked hard, and they built character and pride, showmanship, and those are the things that we need to instill in our children and our young people. And I think $5,000 to a county show for all the Cherokees that make the show, I think it's great. And I'll support that very much. But just to hand over $100 to you if you're in the sale, I'm not for that. I'm just not for it. But if you raise an animal, you get him up, and you take him and you show him in front of that crowd down there, you've done something that year to that child. And especially if it's a first-time child, it's fun to watch because these people receive also a showmanship award, and they can take that award and go to Oklahoma, to the state, and show up there. And they don't have to have an animal; they'll produce their animals, but it's fun to watch those kids show those animals. And if we could kind of make that amendment to cover all those kids that's in that show, no matter whether they receive $80 or $50 or $100, they're really appreciating that. Those kids are. And if we're going to do it, that's the way I would like to see it done.
Councilor Hoskin.
Well, I support Councilor Jordan's motion because I think we should look at it as a stopgap measure until we get enabling legislation. Frankly, we're going to have to rush to make sure we catch up with this mass transfer of money to different purposes. It ought to not be that way, but it is that way. And I think Councilman Cobb and I have two different philosophies about how the branches work, and there's nothing wrong with that difference of opinion. I think, from my perspective, Mr. Chairman, that this body is breathtakingly deferential to the executive branch. Every effort, in fact, that we've tried to manage a little bit closer the direction of the money has been met with defeat by this body. So the administration has actually gotten its way most of the time. But here, when we're faced with this mass transfer of money and the destruction of programs that have worked, Councilor Jordan will get my support for trying to, in a quick fashion, give some direction to the administration. It's not that the administration is incapable of doing the right thing. It's that they're not the only ones with the right ideas. And they're not the only ones that are constitutionally charged with making laws. Our job is not just to pass a budget. Our job is to make laws. And laws impact how money is spent. And that's what we're here to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. By the way, in case you're wondering, I am following Robert's Rules of Order, and that if you're going to speak the second time on this subject, which Councilor Hoskin just did, you don't get to speak until everyone else that wants to speak speaks first on the issue. And then I go back to the second. Because now I'm going to Councilor Watts, who has not spoken yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted this body to know that it wasn't necessarily Chief Smith or Secretary Knight's idea or anybody else's about how to do this. I had helped with and led the initiative to reform this, because I think this was problematic in how we were doing general assistance. So for us to just put the blame on the executive branch, it is...
No. And we're discussing the issue of $100 for the livestock.
No, but there was inference that somehow this was somebody else's fault or something else. This was something that I felt strongly about and brought forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Baker. Did you? Were you asked to be recognized earlier because I
I was
never?
about 15 minutes ago.
Because I never saw your hand. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, go ahead, let him start.
Councilor.
Mine's a point of clarification, too.
Okay.
Does that...
Yeah, point of clarification.
That was just to answer Chris's question. We have approximately, if we add 25,000 to the 14,000, that would give us 390 kids that we could honor with this $100. Now, I have been around livestock auctions all my life, since I was 7, 8 years old. This is my family's area. I've been all over the 14 counties, been to the fairs. I do not believe you will have more than 390 children that will make the livestock auctions in the 14 counties, whether it be part of them are held with the fair in conjunction with the fairs, and then part of them are held as spring livestock shows. If we implement Mr. Thornton's recommendation, which I'm not sure we can amend an amended motion, I'm going to have to ask Todd about that, then we would need to put more money in it if we were going to try to do $100. Because obviously for every child that makes the sale, there's another child standing there that did not make the sale. And just as an example, for Cherokee County, we had 40-some kids, 42 I believe made the sale last year. We probably had another 42 that was sitting in the barn that did not make the sale. So if you were going to do it along the lines of Mr. Thornton's idea, you're probably going to need another 25,000 in that line item to fix it where the children would receive somewhere along the lines of $100 per student. And I too, they clean the barns, they do all sorts of things while they're at these auctions and sales and shows. So that really is probably their community service. And that's just to give you some additional information. I know a lot of you probably this is not an important item, but it is extremely important to a whole lot of families in northeast Oklahoma because the economy is bad right now.
So
$200 buys an animal at California.
Clarification.
Yeah.
Is,
well, and my clarification
is
is it's a minimum of $500, $600, $700 to raise any kind of animal, and that's not putting in the price of the animal. And Mays County, just for his information, because we used to go to that sale all the time, you will not have as many Cherokee children there. I can tell you right now, Sequoia, Delaware, Adair, and Cherokee will have the most children. As you go further out, there's going to be less Cherokee children. But we need to honor all of them if we can. I would be very agreeable with amending my motion if that's what Mr. Thornton's suggesting, if we can do it legally, but we'll have to put some more money into the pot to make it happen.
Okay. Councilor Fishkill, I apologize because I did not see you raise your hand while ago.
Okay. You know, I hear some of the same crowd opposing this $100 that I've heard tell me time and time again, you don't throw money without policy and procedure. Same people saying it. I've heard y'all say y'all's not practicing due diligence, that it's bad physical policy to give money to somebody without no policy and procedures in line. I remember when we wouldn't even, give money for a generator without forming a committee and making some recommendations. But now we're ready to, give money over here with no policy and procedure. It ain't clicking to me. And I'm glad Councilwoman Watts cleared that up about the community assistance, and she spearheaded it.
I'm curious if this has anything to do with War Pony, because I know for a fact War Pony's changed hands and become its nonprofit organization. We don't think anything. The other day I asked for a GRA on lawyer fees that we have spent. No, this has to do with it. All we're asking is for $100 for a kid. You know, on the lawyer fees, we spent $150 for somebody to run the copy machine, for God's sakes. I don't understand it.
Councilor Baker.
Yes, and folks, you know, the putting a dollar amount is no different than the college scholarships. When we send over and say, hey, you know, we want to give 1,000, no, we want to give 2,000, no, we can't give 2,000, so we're only going to give 1,500. Putting a dollar amount only clarifies the intent of this body, and I hate to see the kids get less than they got under previous programs and previous assistance. And you know, when we had it before 2 years ago, it was always done through Cherokee First, and at the last minute a strike of the pen and a policy change says we're not going to do it this year. Well, luckily we had community assistance, and Janelle and David and Tina and I believe it was important enough that we took $5,000 of our community assistance and continued that program. But I'm just saying, if we send the money over, no matter who the director is, if we don't have something that ties the amount to the kids, then the policy can change overnight. They can change it at the stroke of a pen, no matter, you know, when or where or why. And that's what we're getting into. So we would have not had any livestock auction last year had this council not had a community assistance. Would have been zero. And you didn't know it, I didn't know it until it was time for the sale, and I went to ask for it. And they just said, policies changed. You didn't change it. This council didn't change it. It was just changed. Don't know who changed it. Don't know why it was changed, but it was changed. So if we're going to, you know, send the money over, let's send it over with an idea of $100 a kid, and that's how we're going to do it. And if there are 390 kids or 500 kids, then all of a sudden the administrator of that program is going to say, we ain't got enough money, so let's send over a budget model. And we need another, you know, $5,000 to give to each one of the kids that is participating in the program. And but if we don't put a dollar amount, they won't come. They'll just say, well, we don't have enough money, we're out. And how many times have our kids heard that we're out of money? We're not out of money, folks. I mean, last year the casino made $100 million, and we got 30 of it. And we're going to carry over 20. And so we're not out of money, folks, and we might be out of priorities, but we're not out of money. And if this is a priority, then let's put $100 a piece on it, and if they have to come back and say, hey, we don't quite have enough, then it will be in line with the money that we send over, that they need another $5,000, and they'll come to it and ask for it, and I think this body will give it to them. So let's put that on, because policy changes, and because I just don't want it to be categorically the administrator to say, we've got 500 kids, we've got $39,000, so let's give everybody $75. Let's make it 100. If they run short, let's be prepared when the carry forward comes forward to add a little bit to it. Might not be any, but if it is, let's be prepared to do it. And I overheard Buell, I wasn't eavesdropping, but I overheard Buell saying that, you know, our kids didn't know about it, or we discouraged it, or, you know, whatever. And there will be more kids. I mean, if we put $100 in it, there's going to be kids that have never gotten it before that will get it. folks, they need it. And just because they didn't get it last year doesn't mean that they won't use it for scholarships, they won't use it for their college scholarship funds and those kinds of things. So it doesn't matter where the Cherokee's at. And but if we do this and we put it over into a program that we prioritize, then we're going to have more students next year. There is no doubt in my mind that more students from other areas, it's not going to change the numbers in Cherokee County at all, because we've been doing it for 15, 20 years in Cherokee County. And but it will change the numbers in some of the other areas. So, and then the other thing is, well, I've already said it. So, anyway, please, let's put $100 per kid to it, and let's put the extra, 25 in there, and let's send this program over and look at it next year and make sure that it's working well and that the kids are being served. Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I think that, just about the amount of time that we've spent on this subject, it's evident that it's important. I believe that, the fact that within a 24-hour period, the budget has increased over 100% of what it was proposed, before the ink dried on the handout we got here. So, I think that it's evident that this program is important, and it's just, to me, we still don't know how the council is favorable on how do we give all the Cherokees that participate a little bit of funding, or do we just give a select few that someone judged that their animals, got bigger muscles or looks better, or has been, taken care of better, or maybe they just purchased it the day before. It depends on, what you're showing. But, I still think that that's up for debate, and it seems to me that there's plenty of money to get this line item moving, and there's nothing there for early sales. We may have to adjust some for the later sales, but there's plenty enough money to get going, and I think we just need to move on, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Councilor Thorne?
I can't stress enough that I believe that if these kids make the county show, they should receive this funding. And what I need to say is that there are kids that have got an animal and prepared it to show, but they messed up and did something they wasn't supposed to do while they was in school. They got to keep going to school, but they didn't get to make the show. So, they've got restrictions on them, and I think that's great. I don't see anything wrong with that, but I can't stress enough that these kids that make the show, if they don't have the prize animal, and I know one last year, their pig had too many muscles. They were so they didn't make the sale. So there's a lot of stipulations to this, but it's fun. If you get a chance to go watch one, you need to go watch it in your own county. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. Mr. Thornton, are you asking to amend the motion? Okay, I will accept that amendment.
Wait, is Todd?
Can't do that.
I don't know, I don't think we can do.
That's why I wanted
This is the First
to.
Amendment. You can amend it once.
She's amended Dr. Cobb's
But
motion.
this is an
That's the
amendment to
one
his.
time.
No,
So,
this is separate motion.
This is-
Remember,
no,
he
this-
would
okay,
accept
right.
it.
This is a separate motion.
Can we amend her amendment?
He would not accept my
No,
amendment,
I
so
asked, no,
I
I
have a
said,
motion.
I said I wanted to ask Todd. I did not accept it. I said I wanted to ask.
What is the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, the question is, can we amend her amendment to amend his amendment?
No. Once an amendment is made and it is seconded, and we're going to go by Robert's rules, we're going to go by them, all right? Once an amendment is made and it is seconded, it no longer belongs to the proposal, it belongs to the body. Okay? Now, an amendment can only be amended one time properly. You've made, Mr. Cobb made an amendment, and you made an amendment to the amendment. That is what is before.
Clarification. Mr. Cobb made a motion. This is the first amendment to that motion. First Amendment.
No, he made the motion is to accept the budget as is. That's the main motion. He made.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And just listen to me. Listen to me. The main motion before this body is to pass the 2010 fiscal year budget.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, we're going back to you.
Yeah. He made a motion to amend. She's made a motion to amend that amendment.
I agree. I missed both.
Just make that as a motion.
Okay.
And once an amendment is made and seconded, it belongs to the body, no longer the
Just
person.
want a clarification. But if we pass this, Mr. Thornton can turn right around and make a motion for a second amendment, for a new amendment.
No, his motion can only be amended once, is that correct?
Yes.
Once this one's clear.
I'll have to see what the amendment is.
Point
see
of
if it's germane.
clarification, please. We haven't voted on moving this $50,000 yet.
No, we have not.
Thank you.
Okay. But Chair, if I may indulge, okay, this is precisely why you don't legislate on the fly, okay? We have just made, as Mr. Hoskin has stated out, a significant transfer of power between the branches, to be honest with you, okay? We have what is, and that's why you need to have enabling legislation for the council to set out the parameters of how these programs are going to be administered. You know, and you all know this, but we could pass an act that says, administration, go buy 12 purple cows. Their job is to administer that act and go buy 12 purple cows.
Would they make the sale?
I don't know about the sale. Okay, and here, and I was. Let me read you from the Supreme Court, or was the JAT. And this is in Smith versus Tribal Council. This is the second suit on the GAF, when they ruled that the GAF is a constitutional concept if you pass legislation. It says, at oral argument, respondent counsel argues that there is no separation of powers violation because the principal chief has ultimately the authority to decide whether to issue the checks drawn on the GAF. We agree. But if this proposition is to be given validity, there must be a law in place for the executive branch to execute. Otherwise, the executive branch will be forced to exercise the same discretionary powers that the council purports to reserve to itself through the operation of the fund. If the legislative branch passes appropriate legislation establishing the GAF, the executive branch may then provide appropriate review of the payment request to see that it complies with the requirements set forth by the council in the GAF legislation. Likewise, here we have a budget request for livestock shows and youth programs and adult programs and sports teams. The court has spoken that, you know, absent legislation, there's discretion out there. That's why it's so important now that we've kind of crossed this threshold, is to pass enabling legislation, you know, to tell the administration exactly how to administer these programs. Okay, is it going to be $100, etc.? You know, we can pass a law to that effect. But what we're doing right now is kind of doing it on the fly, and you know, we can give directives, etc. And I agree with Mr. Baker, we have done that in the past. But what is important is that these funds be reserved or put until we can pass that enabling legislation. Now, probably the effect of that is that there's going to be a lot of kids who's going to go through a sale that's not going to give any money. Okay, but right now, if we do not pass legislation, they're going to be with great discretion on how to do it. So. Thank you for the indulgence on that, and I hope that information helps.
Okay. So the motion that's on the floor is to amend Councilor Cobb's motion, which is to, and the motion is to give $100 to each person who sells or places, makes a sale at the livestock show. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
So, can we get Shelley for a roll call, please?
And David, who made that motion?
He didn't clarify.
Point of information, Mr. Chair,
Pardon?
is the motion to give $100 to everyone who just shows up and has a blue card, or is it the ones that win?
It's one
That make this
Makes
fail
the
that makes us say.
Okay, okay.
right now. Can I get a point of clarification about how the August work? Okay. That was your question, basically.
Pardon?
Ready?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you come in. Yes.
Bill England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
No.
Harlan Buzzer,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
No.
Bradley Cobb,
No.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
No.
Janelle Fulbright. Yes. Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hoskin Jr.,
Yes.
Hannah Glory Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Oak,
No.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Kara Cowan Watts.
Yes.
We have 12 yes and 5 no.
So that becomes part of his amendment.
Right. Okay. And the initial amendment is to switch 25,000 to the sports teams and 25,000 to the livestock show. And before the motion to amend, I had Councilor Soap asking to speak on the original amendment. Do you still
No,
have
I
it?
think that, I got my question in on the,
Okay, also had Councilor Hoskin on the original amendment. Okay. Councilor Baker.
Yeah, and just for clarification, Dr. Cobb, on the sports teams dollars that you're switching over, even though Callie said it, I'd like to have it part of the motion that each sports team that has 50% Cherokee will get $500. I mean, that was what they said yesterday, but I'd like it a little bit more formal in the policy.
Give her the opportunity. Well,
Yes.
sorry. No, sorry.
I'm asking for a friendly, so if he needs to.
That was the intent of the proposal. And again, these numbers were derived based on prior year's history of sponsorships for these teams.
Okay. Councilor Fulbright.
Well, did he accept?
Oh. Excuse me.
Will you restate that, please?
Okay. These numbers were derived based on reviewing prior year sponsorships, and $500 per team was what the maximum was that we had anticipated giving on these sports teams.
You're waiting on a response from me from the... Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
How many sports teams did you have last year, and how many do you anticipate in the next fiscal year?
I don't have those numbers with me. I'll have to get those from Mel or
So,
Greg. Do you have
my
those?
question ultimately then is going to be, how do you know $500 is going to take care of it?
Well, I mean, there is no certainty.
Point of clarification.
It's just based on an estimate of history.
Clarification here.
Dr. Cobb, they obviously anticipated 50 teams at $500, and you're doubling it, so that would be like 100 teams, which I think is probably going to be accurate. But
And for clarification, you had 33 last year.
Thank you.
We counted them.
Okay.
I have no problem with that, Counselor, but by the same token, if I agree to this amendment, I'm going to be a complete hypocrite, because I believe that either by committee, which we are definitely would be a part of, or by group leader, whichever it is, and in this case, I believe that this is I believe that this is committee, is that correct, or is this group, is this community service?
Community service.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead.
What Todd got from Melanie last night is this is just going to be group leader, and that's why I want to make sure that we've got a dollar amount on it so that they're getting what they got last year and all. And for the same argument I had a while ago, if they have 5 more teams than what we got money for, I'd sure like them to come back and say, hey, we need another $2,500.
The point of clarification, can an amendment be made on this, similar to the one we just went through?
It would be my opinion that it could, because it's not germane to the initial amendment of because the amendment to the first amendment to your amendment dealt solely with livestock issues. This amendment deals with sports teams, which is not germane to the issue of livestock issues. That would be my opinion, but it's your.
I am not going to accept that, but if the will of the body is that, then feel free to make a second amendment.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose an amendment that when we send the $50,000 over for sports team sponsorships, that we clarify the $500 per team, the way Melanie proposed it, the way Kelly's saying it's supposed to be, but we just send the money earmarked for $500 per sports team, just so that when we talk to our constituents, we tell them, here's the form, and that's the maximum. And that's exactly what Tyne and I did last year. Is if we'd get a request, we'd say, now the maximum's 500, and at least they know what they're going into when they do the paperwork. So I put that form of motion.
And the amendment is up to 500.
No, it is 500.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded that we give the sports teams each $500 if they meet the criteria.
Meet the criteria.
Right.
50%, yeah.
Okay. Councilor Fulbright, you have a discussion on that issue?
Yes. I agree with this, to give each team 500, but I'm afraid when it comes right down to it, we're going to have to come back and change it, because based on Melanie taking what we did this year, David and I only funded 2 sports teams, because we gave the majority of our money to nutrition centers and things. So based on that, the numbers are certainly not going to be correct. I just want to point that out, because in Sequoia County, we've got just as many sports teams as they do in these others. So I'm afraid when it comes up to $500 per team, we're going to need a lot more money than that. That's my point.
Okay. Yes.
If I could address the question, there is a motion on the floor to double what was originally proposed, so hopefully that will cover some of your issue.
Councilor Hoskins, did you want to address this issue, or?
I withdraw.
Okay. Councilor Ingram. Bill.
No.
Councilor Ingram?
I'll pass.
Okay. Speaker please.
Bill John, when we're talking about sports teams, is there an age group, or is it all sports teams? Define sports teams.
We defined sports teams as organized sports teams, and we did not discriminate if it was an adult sports team. We never discriminated. If there was a group of guys going to Arizona to play in an all-Indian tournament, we didn't discriminate against them or a Pee Wee team.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Motion's been made that we $500 each sports team. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. Do I have just 2? Roll call, please.
Joe Crittenden,
Yes.
Jody Fishinghawk,
Yes?
Meredith Rayleigh,
Yes.
Janelle Fulbright,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Chuck Hopkins Jr., Tyne Floyd Jordan,
Yes.
Chris Bell,
Yes.
Curtis Snell,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Tara Kellen Watts,
No.
Bill England,
Yes.
Bill John Baker,
Yes.
Jack Baker,
Yes.
Harley Buzzard,
Yes.
Julia Coates,
Yes.
Brad Cox.
No.
We have 14 yes and 2 no and 1 non-voter.
Okay. So the motion carried. So now we're back to the original motion of switching the 25,000 to the sports team and 25 to the livestock show. So,
Point of clarification.
okay.
And to do that, we're taking it out of donations and contributions? Is that it?
Yes. That was the motion.
And Dr. Cobb, is there any other place that we could maybe talk to Doug where we could get that rather than take it out of that line? I mean, if you follow this scenario, we're actually already have less money for community assistance or for direct services to the community than we had last year. And would you entertain a friendly amendment of finding the dollar someplace else?
Based on the economy and our job as being frugal, I would say no, not at this time.
Can I ask Doug?
Okay. What's the question for Doug?
Doug, is there another place that we might get that $50,000 with little or no pain?
Well, that's a subjective question.
Okay. Mr. Henry?
Well, I don't, okay. Passage of the amendment as it is right now, taking the 50,000, et cetera, would not forego later on in the budget process of supplementing that fund with something else, either 50 or 100 or whatever thousand. It would not shut off the door from finding it somewhere else later on in the budget. What you're saying right now is that basically you're going to double those budget, and that's his suggestion where the money comes from. This body can later replenish that budget in an appropriate motion at a time.
My concern is this budget hearing might not last much longer, Mr. Henry. And I'd kind of like to broach that subject now, if I could.
The budget right now is a proposal. If you take the assumption that the body is going to appropriate all of the discretionary dollars for what's being asked for, then we would have to go and either determine where any future increases are going to come from. They're either going to have to come from revenue increases or budget cuts of what's proposed. If you assume everything is going to be funded out of Gen Fund the way it's being asked for, then I don't have a quick answer for you. Without going and looking, where do we have funds reserved? Where do we have carryover? But you see where I'm going with my answer? You have to make a determination as to, is the budget if you're not going to amend what's being proposed and asked for, then I don't know where you're going to get it, because I can't estimate revenues, only the treasurer can by statute. So
Can I ask Kelly the same question?
Sure. Yes. Ms. Ketcher?
Yes, sir.
You have a better place to take the 50 from than what you proposed.
That's the same subjective question that you asked Doug. And I mean, the budget that I brought forward is a balanced budget. With the proposed adjustments, there is still a $12,000 surplus. If you want to take the $50,000 from another budget, we would just have to go through those and determine where to reduce. I do not feel that revenue could be increased at this time. So.
Okay, thank you. Now, on Councilor Cobb's motion, I have Councilor Jordan and then Councilor Hoskins. Did you? Jody, I wasn't sure whether you raised your hand a while ago or not. Did you just speak on?
On this one?
Uh,
No.
okay. Okay, Councilor Jordan.
Did he make has he
No,
made a motion?
no. This is the motion to switch to 25,000 over.
Okay, then I defer to Jody. I think she's got an amended motion that she wants to ask for.
Yes,
Okay.
I would like to add, for nutrition centers, community buildings, and food pantries, for all of them, each get $2,000 out of donations while we're doing this.
But now, yes.
Okay. And again, would be my opinion to the chair. Obviously, it's your decision. That amendment would not be germane to his amendment.
And I agree with that.
And then after his amendment is disposed with, she would be proper to make
Yes.
her amendment to that.
Right.
Point of
And that I agree
clarification,
with.
since the 50,000 is coming out of donations, the line item, wouldn't it be germane?
No.
Well, no, because there's still $150,000 in donations. She may make a motion to increase donations by $100,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So Councilor Hoskins, you had your own. Okay. So the motion's been made to switch to 25,000 for the sports teams, 25,000 for the livestock shows, to increase those by 25,000 and decrease the contributions. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Then the motion carried. Okay. Councilor Fishikoff.
Now, I would like to make the motion for nutrition centers, food pantries, and community buildings. Give them all $2,000 apiece. Put it in donations and contributions and add $100,000 to do it. And that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded that we increase contributions by $100,000, and then the food pantries, etc., each get $2,000. Community buildings each get $2,000. So, motion's been made and seconded. Okay, Mr. Hembry.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
We're increasing it, but we don't have any source of funds.
Yeah, well, and this is, and I was just getting ready to ask Doug and Callie this question. We are constitutionally required to have a balanced budget, okay? Now, the budget as it is set forth, it is a balanced budget, correct? So if we're going to make significant changes in that budget, we will have to move from Pot A to Pot B, is that correct?
Correct.
Have we done it in the last several years? We make changes and then go back and try to balance it at the end. That's how we normally do it.
Okay, all right. That's whatever, just as long as at the end. Okay.
Excuse me, but if I remember correctly, in previous years, we have had enough money to work with.
We did last year. After the scholarship reserve, or the scholarship program took a bump, we had to go back, and it took an hour to determine how were we going to meet our reserve requirements, how we're going to fund the scholarship program, and a whole slew of other incentives that came out of the budget hearings.
Okay.
But then, I defer Beauty for a...
Basically, as we go through these budgets, if we increase one, we have to decrease something else. That's all we can do, because our revenues are projected, those have been certified. We have used all of the funds, except with the exception of $12,000.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded that we increase the contributions by $100,000 and then the $2,000. And I have right now 4 people. Councilor Koff.
I just want to, I have a couple statements, but I have a question. Did you say food pantries What were the three, Councilor Fishing Hawk? What were your three you were moving money to?
Food pantries, community buildings, and nutrition sites.
Okay, so my questions ultimately are going to be, and you've already addressed this, Mr. Chair, is A, where's the money coming from, and B, how many of those are there? Food pantries, community buildings, obviously we can find out. But before we start moving money somewhere, how many are there and where's the money coming from is ultimately going to be my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question for Councilperson Fishing Hawk. Of those three areas, how much money did you say?
I said 100,000, but I've just been told there's about 90, correct me if I'm wrong, Kimmy, back there, about 90 community buildings, community organizations.
Excuse me.
And I don't want to give up the floor. I have no.
Okay. But the motion was community buildings, or was it community organizations?
Community buildings, food pantries, and nutrition centers.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Would Councilperson Fishing Hawk entertain a friendly amendment to add $50,000 to that to be equally distributed among the counties for backpack nutrition? Not 50, that $25,000 for backpack nutrition programs administered by either the Salvation Army or the Boys and Girls Club. I believe that they're not receiving any, and I'd like to see that complement the nutrition programs that you're. And I would also, to the extent that we have to balance as we go along, which I don't think we do, it seems to me, Mr. Chairman, we have money in the litigation and advocacy initiative that is probably a little over budgeted, but I thought we'd wait till we got there to adjust those. But we're going to go as we go along, and we're going to have to thumb through this book and point out that I think we ought to adjust at the end. But so just to clarify, my amendment is $25,000 for backpack nutrition programs to be equally distributed amongst the 14 counties through either of those entities.
Well, except, do you remember how much we put in there last year for the backpack? Was it 25?
I don't recall.
And I will second.
And to that, I would add that Craig County was, and it wasn't the purpose of this body, Craig County was inadvertently excluded from that because actually the Salvation Army administers the program in Craig County. So that's why I would say Salvation Army should be.
We do have our recurring donation to Boys and Girls Club. Is that what we're talking about? Were you talking about the backpack?
It was a separate.
Separate.
It was a separate backpack nutrition.
Okay, I was just looking at the donations list in the book, and I don't see that as a separate item. However, we do have several donations to crisis intervention, and I know that we operate the senior nutrition sites, so I guess I'm not clear on if this is a proposal for Cherokee Nation community buildings or recognized community organizations. So the community buildings that Cherokee Nation has helped establish, there are 14 of those, approximately. So would this funding be for nutrition at those community building sites? Is that?
Yeah, we're keeping them separate. I want it for community buildings, I want it for nutrition.
Oh, okay, so.
I don't want you all saying.
Two separate items.
The same person just gets 2,000. No, they hold the nutrition side at the same place as the community building. It's two separate things.
Okay.
And by the same token, to the extent a community is served by a backpack nutrition program, it may appear at first glance like a duplication of services. In my experience, it's not. And so, to be clear,
I will accept that last year, I'm the one that made the motion, I think, to.
Right. And just to be clear, it's either Salvation Army or Boys and Girls Club, whichever has jurisdiction within a particular county. And I believe there's no overlap.
I do not believe we have any backpack nutrition in the proposed budget. We do have several donations related to nutrition and to Boys and Girls Club.
And not to belabor the point, to be clear, this is equal distribution with respect to the backpack program amongst the counties.
Okay. So y'all have each accepted that, but it also increases to $125,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Just to clarify, $125,000. Okay. 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 Counselor Watts? Did-
I'm fine.
Counselor Suggs?
Yeah, I was going to inquire as to, as far as the community buildings go, I noticed there was a sizable increase in the community work and building program, their budget for 2010. And so, is that something that they're already telling us that we would be able to provide more funding, or is this new funding, or what's the increase there for Calvin?
Okay. You're referring to the...
10-10-530.
Okay. That is budgeted at the same level as 2009. That does, I believe, include some carryover, because those are to actually build buildings, but it also assists the communities in getting going. But yes, you're correct. In 2008, we spent $463,000, and the proposed budget for 2010 is $928,000.
Well, what was 09's budget?
09's budget was $928,000.
Okay. What about the LIHEAP program?
LIHEAP program
Right.
for...
For additional funds. I mean, that's one area that they spent quite a bit of money this year, and I inquired about it yesterday.
Wait, is that germane to
Oh.
her motion?
I thought we were looking for funding or something like that.
Oh.
It was part of the discussion.
Because her motion was not to worry about where the funding came from.
Okay, all right. I thought that was part of
Oh, okay.
what we were responsible for doing, was looking at funding.
Counselor Fishing?
Yes. Chair, can we take a 5-minute recess? I just talked to Henry, and I'm wanting to get straight because Janelle asked me about something about the community organizations and the buildings. Can we take a 5-minute recess and we'll get the numbers
We'll
straight?
take a 10-minute break.
Thank you.
Back shortly after 10:30.